Hello, everyone, and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video, Core Pick live stream for today, Wednesday, April 26th. As always, what we'll be doing, going through a recap of yesterday's picks, talking about the weather that could affect the mean slate overall, and then going over to FanDuel, talking about the core picks that I do have for today. And then after that, go to the bottom half. Excuse me, we'll be going over to the bottom half of my cheat sheet and talking about the top GPP stacks that I do have for today, just in general. That cheat sheet is up. It's 100% free. It's up on Facebook. It's up on Twitter. It's up on YouTube under the community tab. It's up on Patreon too as well. If you guys want to make a small monthly donation for the Patreon, you get daily MLB DFS notes Monday through Friday, as well as the cheat sheet, but the cheat sheet's free on other platforms as well. But definitely be sure to check that out if that's something you're interested in. But with that being said, I'm going to get into it with the recap of yesterday's picks. Not the greatest day overall, which you're going to have that sometimes in baseball. Everything can line up completely perfect, and then you still get some off for 4 days. Unfortunately, we had a lot of those yesterday. At pitcher, we went with Griffin Cannon. He was $8,800. Got to 33 points. He was not a bad play by any means. Did give him a push since he ended up being the 7th overall pitcher on the slate. If he pitches another inning, if he gets the quality start, obviously we're looking at the 40 points that we were looking for out of him just in general. But not a bad play regardless. There were some decent plays, some cheap guys that actually did pay off pretty well. Pretty good pitching day overall yesterday. At first base, we had Pete Alonso, $4,400. Previously was 3 for 6 versus Josiah Gray with a home run in his career. 0 for 4 yesterday, unfortunately. So just kind of some tough luck there. Nolan Arenado, same thing. You know, he was going against, I'm trying to remember who it was. Jacob Junis ended up being kind of the main guy yesterday, I believe. After John Brebbia, it looked like Sean Manaea early on in the day, but they pushed Manaea's start back a couple days now at this point in time. Even with the Junis history, he was 3 for 9 versus him. So wasn't too much concern there. Unfortunately, went 0 for 4 as well. And then Eloy Jimenez, who had some pretty good history versus Jose Barrios. Barrios kind of found his stuff yesterday and was actually pitching pretty well. So he went 0 for 4 as well. So just one of those things with baseball. Everybody can have the greatest history in the world and still go 0 for 4. So there is some variance there on any given slate. That's kind of why talking yesterday about mixing and matching a little bit more than we would on some other days. And then last but not least, we had Eric Kase, who, 2 for 2 with 2 home runs versus Eric Lauer heading into the day. Ended up just, I believe, 1 for 3, 1 for 4 yesterday. So he got 3 points. He ended up being a push. So not the greatest day overall. Obviously, looking to bounce back pretty strong today, but you're going to have that sometimes with MLB. There is a million different outcomes that can happen in any given baseball game. So unfortunately, sometimes it ends up on the wrong side. But with that being said, we're going to get over to the weather. I actually do have the weather report pulled up from RotoWire here, since there is a couple spots that we'll be checking out as the day moves along. So the first spot that we do have is the Seattle Mariners and the Philadelphia Phillies game. So right now, it's saying 61 degrees, 35% chance of rain, 8 mile per hour wind blowing right to left in Philadelphia. You can see different times down here too. 40% chance of rain throughout the game. Does not look like anything that should cause postponement, but there could be a possible delay. So maybe a game that we're going to kind of punt or avoid today just on the slate in general. And then as we move down, the other spot that we kind of have is the Washington Nationals and the New York Mets over in New York, where about 25% chance of rain. Doesn't look like too big of a deal at this point in time, but we'll keep an eye out on that one as the day moves along as well. So that's pretty much the two spots that we do have in terms of weather for today. If anything does change throughout the day, we'll leave it down in the comments as well. So I'm going to close out of the weather tab, and then we'll get over to FanDuel, talk about the core picks that I do have for today at this point in time. So let me bring that up here real quick as we are talking. So going to be a pretty interesting day in terms of pitcher. Obviously, I got 3 guys in my cheat sheet. It ended up being Bryce Elder, Hunter Brown, and Patrick Sandoval, who were the 3 that stood out the most to me for their price points and everything else like that. Ultimately ended up on Bryce Elder. He has pretty good history versus this Miami Marlins team in the past. The only guys that have decent history versus him, Garrett Cooper 2 for 2, and then Brian De La Cruz 2 for 3 with a home run versus him, which was kind of his one bad start last year against Miami, but that's a start that he still got 20 points in. The other 2 starts against Miami last year, he got 40 and 52 points. So some pretty strong upside there. Obviously, if we look at him, you can see what he's done at least early on in the season. He's been pitching extremely well. So just pulling that up here real quick with some of these game logs. He's been over 40 points 3 out of his 4 starts. The one lone start that he was not, it was against the Kansas City Royals, oddly enough, which is probably the worst team he's played against this year. Well, maybe Cincinnati, but some pretty strong performances. Obviously, pitching extremely well at this point in time. Don't really have too many concerns with him. Probably one of the safer plays today. Maybe one of the more popular plays, but at $10,900 price tag could affect that a little bit too as well. Since Bryce Elder probably doesn't have that name recognition that most people will look for from at least the casual DFS fan. Then we move down to first base. We got Paul Goldschmidt here at $3,400. He is 14 for 27 versus Anthony DeSclafani, who is pitching today for the Giants. He has 2 home runs versus him as well in the past. So some pretty strong history there at that. DeSclafani's pitched pretty well so far to start the season. His last start was not the greatest, but about 3 out of the 4 starts that he's had so far this season, looking pretty good. He did not pitch against the Cardinals last season. If we look back at Goldschmidt, kind of what he's been doing so far, at least early to start the year, 287, 2 home runs. Him and Arenado have been down a little bit as of late, but kind of bouncing back, 3-game hitting streak at this point in time. Obviously, there was the 0 for 11 before that, but pretty strong performances overall for Paul Goldschmidt. He's a guy that when he gets hot, he gets really hot too. So definitely do like the upside there. Pay down spot at $3,400. You're not going to see him at that price very often, if at all, for the rest of the season. Then at second base, ended up on Brandon Drury. So he's the guy that's been playing a little bit more as of late. He's been playing extremely well. He's only $2,600. You can play him at first base. You can play him at second base. He is going against Luis Medina, who is the expected starting pitcher for the Oakland A's today. He's called up yesterday. This is his MLB debut. Okay pitcher in AAA, but nothing to be right home about. The Angels lineup is pretty strong. Brandon Drury's really done well, excuse me, as of late. So obviously you see he's 5 for his last 8. There's 2 home runs 2 games ago. So he's been hitting the ball pretty reasonably well as of late. So do like the upside that he does present at a cheaper price tag. Obviously he does have no history in the past against Luis Medina since it is his MLB debut though. So then we move down in the outfield. And we're going to start off with Ian Happ. He's $3,300. He is going against the San Diego Padres and Michael Wacha today. He is 4 for 11 with 3 home runs versus Michael Wacha in his career. That is the most home runs of any hitter versus pitcher today. It's been a little bit hit or miss for Ian Happ, at least to start the season, but still 295, 2 home runs, 13 RBIs, nothing too crazy to write home about there. But, you'll see the little hit or miss in his game, but still some pretty strong performances there. We're kind of buying into that upside. $3,300, pretty reasonable price tag at the same time too as well. So definitely don't have any problem going to Ian Happ today. He's expected to hit 3rd for the Cubs, so should be a pretty important bat in their lineup just in general. And then last but not least, I have Tyler O'Neill at $2,600. Going against San Francisco Giants, Anthony DeSclafani once again. He is 3 for 11 with 2 home runs versus him in his career. So some pretty strong upside there, reasonable price tag. Tyler O'Neill is a guy that's been in my core picks a couple times throughout the season. Probably a guy that should just be a little bit more expensive, even if it's a couple $100 more. So he's on a 3-game hitting streak right now. There is some hit or miss to his game too as well, but if we can get one of those strong performances out of him, if he's got that strong history once again versus DeSclafani that he's had in the past, looks like a pretty good upside play at that $2,600. Definitely a reasonable price tag just in general. So chasing a little bit of upside today. Hopefully it pays off just in general, but $12,200 remaining, just over $3,000 per player. You can kind of mix and match if you want to pay up for some other players. If you want to take a more balanced approach, that's definitely fine as well. But some pretty interesting options that are available on today's slate. But with that being said, we're going to close off of the FanDuel screen. We'll go over to the bottom half of the cheat sheet and talk about the top GPP teams to stack for today. So let me pull this up here real quick as we are talking. So as I already mentioned, cheat sheet is 100% free. It's up on Facebook, it's up on Twitter, and it's up on the YouTube community tab as well. So the top GPP stacks that I do have for today, we have the Los Angeles Angels going against Luis Medina, making his major league debut for the Oakland A's. 3.86 ERA in AAA this season. So going against a strong Angels lineup, definitely would like some of those bats tonight, whether it's Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, Brandon Drury, Anthony Rendon, anybody that you can get your hands on in the lineup does have a chance of succeeding. Taylor Ward, definitely go on and on and on. So a lot of guys that are very intriguing just in that lineup in general, but a team that I would not mind going to in terms of stacking today. Then we have the Houston Astros. They are going against the Tampa Bay Rays, and I believe it's like Calvin Foucher getting the opening nod. Probably pitching 1 or 2 innings for them today. He has not pitched against the Houston Astros. Josh Fleming is likely to follow him, pitch a couple innings, and then kind of a bullpen game after that. So do you like some of the upside there? Not a lot of history versus Foucher or Fleming at that point in time, but some of these Astros hitters have decent price tags. Some of them have pretty good upside as well. And then we move over to Chicago Cubs, a team that I have not really stacked at all this season, but some very good history there at that versus Michael Wacha. Ian Happ's a strong one there. Eric Hosmer does have some pretty good history versus him as well. Cody Bellinger does as well, but unfortunately, I believe he's on like paternity leave or something like that. So he's not going to be around for today's game. And then last but not least, we have the St. Louis Cardinals going against Anthony DeSclafani. DeSclafani's pitched pretty well to start the year. A rough start the last time out. Doesn't have the greatest history against these Cardinals hitters. So kind of some give and take there. We'll see if Paul Goldschmidt, we'll see if Tyler O'Neill kind of went out just in general in that matchup. But like attacking some of those Cardinals bats at the cheaper price tags that they are at this point in time. But with that being said, that's kind of what I do have in terms of core picks, in terms of top GPP stacks, the weather report, everything else like that for today. Definitely hope this information did help you guys out as you are building out your lineups today. If you guys have any additional questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments. And I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Also, be sure to let me know your favorite play on tonight's slate down there in the comments. Definitely interested in hearing what you guys have to say, whether it's somebody from my core 5 picks, whether it's somebody completely different. Definitely interested in what you guys have to say. But with that being said, that's pretty much what I do have in terms of the Core Pick video, Core Pick live stream for today. If you are brand new to my channel, checking it out for the first time, would ask that you would subscribe if you do enjoy the content that I am putting out. Definitely helps to build the channel that we are building here and the community that I am building here in general at Coach Craig Sports. Definitely would mean a lot to me. Helps to build the community, like as I already mentioned. Mainly focusing on helping you guys in terms of DFS. Right now, it is MLB DFS. We got some USFL DFS. That video will be out on Friday as well, live stream as well. So definitely be sure to check out that content. I had some pretty good success in week number 2 over there. We'll be doing a little bit of NFL draft content here and there. So definitely be sure to check that out if that's something you're interested in. Get some NFL draft prospect interviews up on the channel with some kind of under the radar prospects just in general. So if that's something you're into, also check that out. But definitely appreciate everyone taking the time out of their day to tune into this video. With that being said, that's really all that I have for today. Hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS tonight, just in general.